Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at BTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the evolution of the relationship between Pakistan and India and what sort of ties both the countries will proceed forward with, especially under the third term of office of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and what sort of relationship dynamics will exist, whether or not this can possibly lead to something positive for both India and Pakistan. Of course, there were many hopes given the third term in office of the Prime Minister that this might just be the case, but in light of certain recent events, it seems that perhaps that might not have been the issue. There is, of course, a lot of concern with regards to what has been going on for quite some time, and also with reference to the kind of build-up that has been exchanged within the elections as well. So we're going to be taking a look at this dynamic and seeing in terms of what sort of aspects the Prime Minister is going to be taking moving forward, and what sort of role will then be played by the leadership of the government as well, and then of course making sure that this is something that Pakistan deals with in a positive light. There is also, of course, the way forward with regards to terrorism in Pakistan and the effects and the measures that Pakistan will be taking in this regard. Of course, we've just recently seen that once again Pakistan has identified the evidence leading back to India, and in light of that, of course, there is important ways forward that Pakistan will have to take internationally as well. How will that also impact the relationship dynamic is going to be of utmost importance as well, and what sort of way forward will the government be taking on this particular stance is going to be our focus of the discussion today. For this and more, as always in the studios, I've been joined by senior analysts Farrukh K.Pitafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by former ambassador Mr. G.R. BALUCH. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the discussion. And of course, G.R. Saab, I'm going to start with you with reference to how you see in particular, of course, the start that we, of course, look at in terms of the third term in office of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and what exactly will be the way forward. Of course, we've seen that there was no invitation with the oath-taking ceremony. There was, of course, exchange on Twitter or X also. And then, of course, the way forward is something which hasn't really been easy previously as well, and something that Pakistan will have to balance out in the future too. But what sort of take do you think that the countries are going to be taking given the information that we have so far?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Sana. Thank you. I think Pakistan-India relations are again at a very important and a crucial juncture as BJP again comes to power and Mr. Modi has the third term. Now there are aspirations, there are expectations, but at the same time, we also have a very, very kind of sour history of the last two terms of BJP under Mr. Modi, and how his approach to Pakistan has been. And the sad thing is that Pakistan and Muslims were used as bogies by Mr. Modi during his election years. And unfortunately, we did not see any decrease or any kind of less use of what has been termed as the politics of division, exclusion, and by some analysts as the politics of hate. So we should hope that better sense should prevail. And one would tend to think as students of international relations that such leaders should behave, should act rationally. When I'm saying rationally, I'm talking about the interest of India itself. Yes, they'll come back and tell us that we don't need Pakistan's relations, but they have said it, their leaders have said it, that we cannot change our neighbors. So I think Pakistan and India, which are together so geographically adjacent to each other, they are neighbors. Can BJP and can Mr. Modi deny this reality? Yet another, there's a common history of colonization, bearing decolonization. There's a cultural commonalities. There are linguistic and ethnic commonalities. There are commonalities of several values which are humane, which are civilizational. So I think, how can you defy and how long can you defy? Yes, you can take a very short term interest by perverting history, by distorting history. But I think these could be small time gains, but cannot be a permanent gain for India. If India really has to emerge as a responsible South Asian regional and international important country, it has to start from its neighborhood. And I think the signals from Pakistan have been very positive. Our foreign minister and the deputy prime minister and foreign minister has in his statement expressed that desire. So this desire is not the desire of Mr. Ishaq Dar. It is the desire of the government of Pakistan. Likewise, the former Prime Minister, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, in a very polite message and a kind of warm message, had expressed the similar that let's exchange hate for love and development of the region. So I think there is, at least at the intellectual level, also there is a desire. The thinking and thought leaders, several thought leaders in India, of course, think that it is basically in the interest of the region and in the interest of India, obviously in the interest of Pakistan, that this enmity must come to an end.
Question, of
Now,
course, is to understand whether the state of India and the leadership there also believes in that and will take action accordingly, because we have put forward the sentiments, as you mentioned, that Mr. Sargdar has also reiterated once again that echo Pakistan's stance. But this is not the first time Pakistan has put forward a positive stance or had said that now it's time for India to reciprocate. It's been very clear in terms of sending its own signals of where it wants this direction to go. However, we haven't seen the kind of reciprocity, and even with response to Mr. Nawaz Sharif's statements, there was, of course, concerns raised about security, and so we haven't really seen perhaps the kind of warm response and what one could possibly expect that could then take us to a positive direction. Do you think that there can be any different response this time around, and why?
no, I think they'll take some time. Uh, the Indian, at this point of time, we know that BJP does not have that majority the way it had it in the parliament in the previous two terms. So I think it has to take into account all the coalition partners. Uh, so I think perhaps they will take their time to respond to Pakistan, and then perhaps we might see coming down of some degree of this tension that we have. So at least on our part, we should do those uh, like areas where the cooperation can be done. The other day, I was just thinking agriculture. Now, the farmers in both the part of this subcontinent, East Punjab and West Punjab, likewise in Rajasthan and on our side of this, they have similar problems. I was just thinking that forget about the politics. Let the farmers meet each other. Let them exchange the strategy to respond to the climate change issues, the extreme hot weather, the scarcity of water, the unpredictable weather cycles. So I think there is a way, there could be possibilities, and there is, as I have been saying in your program as well, that there is a battery or some set of people who are sane in their minds, who do not believe in this politics of hate and exclusion. So our message essentially is meant for those segment of the Indian society, and we must not give up on that. We should continue to do that. I think a positive development was that one of our delegation on the on the Indus River water treaty did visit, and that also Kashmir. So I think it appeared to me quite a gesture by India. I would have not expected that to happen so immediately. The fact that has happened. So I think likewise, there will be several. And the other most important thing which I've been thinking, we have not exchanged any information on our most vital sector, that is our nuclear capabilities. There we were supposed to exchange the location the uh, other information which is meant to prevent any accidental war or an accidental accident which might be
But
disastrous.
this is also sensitive information, Ambassador Saab, and it will take us some time to get there.
Yeah, that's correct. But it is sensitive not only for Pakistan, but also crucial for India too.
Sure.
So, from their own defense point of view, that's why I'm saying that perhaps we can start to talk to them. And I think there could be even an idea sent to India to upgrade at least to the ambassadorial level our embassies, which have been downgraded to CDA. That should be there. At least we should talk. After all, you talk to those people with whom you quarrel. Even our books of international relations that you talk to your enemies. Also, if you really are a rational mind. So I think the first order of the day, the two countries should do, and there's no harm in Pakistan taking initiative and inviting India to to upgrade the embassies to the ambassadorial level and then start negotiating on those issues which are contentious, which are numerous. We know they are very complicated, very intricate, very requiring months and years of deliberations. So I think there is still some scope. We can still pick up the pieces. After all, there have been some good phases between India and Pakistan, even during BJP's tenure in office. So let them pick up the pieces from there.
Right.
But I think there is no escape. There is no other option but for the two countries but to talk peace, talk
Absolutely,
prosperity,
that has
talk
always been the only
development.
option for countries to move forward. Faisal, I want your take, especially in terms of your perception of what the new term by Prime Minister Modi will look like. Because, of course, while Pakistan continues to give these positive messages, it's the response that's going to matter whether or not we're going to even move in that direction. And while, of course, we've seen the previous 2 decades of the BJP-led government and Prime Minister Modi and the way it has, there is, of course, a lot of reason to assume that it's going to be the same way forward. But do you think that there is any difference in terms of what Prime Minister Modi may have in mind in terms of his vision for foreign policy of India, and what sort of interactions can there possibly be with Pakistan? What do you think, in your perception, is he thinking at the moment of taking this forward?
Yes, and obviously, when I obviously think about what Modi would be thinking about having the third term and how he wants to spend it, to me, I think after 2 terms of nasty politics he played against Pakistan, the way he kept Pakistan busy with the FATF, and of course, even if we take the example of BCCI, the way BCCI was obviously downplaying PCB, and the way they have been creating hurdles for Pakistan. They were not allowing bigger events to come to Pakistan, the way they have been treating in other sectors as well to Pakistan, and they were trying Pakistan to fail in every sort of sector. And now when I think about what kind of frame of mind he would be in, there are 2. Number 1, that he might be thinking that he should continue with whatever the menace he's been activating against Pakistan, so that he forever is remembered in India by the Indians and his voters and supporters, that he was someone who kept a tight noose against Pakistan, and he would be considered as hero. As we know that the Hindutva ideology, it actually promotes hatred against Muslims, hatred against Pakistan, and of course they believe in Mahabharat or Akhand Bharat, and in that context
not Mahabharat,
Akhand Bharat.
Mahabharat is something else.
Akhand Bharat, and in that context, of course, he would be wanting to keep doing this kind of notion against Pakistan, so that he is always remembered as a hero of Hindutva ideology, and RSS keeps on celebrating his tenures as Prime Minister. 1, and number two, if there is any sanity left in him, then I might think that he somehow turn out to be someone who believing in him that, oh, whatever he did in his past, of course, you know, he was involved in Gujarat riots. He was obviously termed the butcher of Gujarat, and throughout the world he was known to be butcher of Gujarat. And the way he's been you know, promoting hatred against not only Muslims but other minorities living within India, the way you know, he's been considered as someone who always catered the hardline Hindutva ideology and not the secularism of India itself. To me, I think this is the time he might turn out to be someone who wants to, of course, cover everything with one aspect, and that is the third term he's having. He you know, tries to portray himself as a peace loving leader of South Asia, who believes in peace, who believes in you know, dialogue rather than waging a war against any other country. The way he's been you know, hegemonic towards all of the neighboring countries, not only Pakistan, they have been hegemonic towards Bangladesh, towards Sri Lanka, towards Nepal, towards Myanmar, to every single country they've been you know, hegemonic towards. It was Pakistan who actually gave them a befitting reply in February 2019. And rest of all, of course, they were too small to do anything against India.
Right.
And to me, I think this is the time he might turn out to be someone who feels as if he does something good with the neighboring countries, including Pakistan, then he might be considered as not only leader of India, maybe a leader of South Asia who loved peace, and he wanted to leave behind a legacy of peace and legacy of a dialogue, which to me, I think is just a dream that will never come true. To me, I think the first option is more appropriate option when we talk about a person like Modi, a prime minister like Modi, and to me, I think he just want that kind of nasty you know, sort of legacy with him. He always wants to get associated with the hardliners, and wherever there is some sort of hate against Muslims or any other you know, religions or minorities that are in India, and of course especially hatred towards Pakistan, to me, I think that's the most fitting and most suitable for a person like Modi.
So you think that he's going to go for that option,
Yeah.
even more so than this leader of peace in South Asia?
I don't think he would ever think himself, you know, to go on them lines, because even if he does, everyone would say that it's just the Bollywood actor who's doing some stunt.
Right. Farrukh, I want your perspective on this as well. Which direction Modi is likely to take, and what sort of is the way forward for them in terms of the decision for whatever interest that they might actually be pursuing it? And add to that, especially when we talk about any sort of positive dialogue and move forward, there has always been the very large and very important issue of Kashmir. And so this is something that has been going on for quite some time, and even more so since the unilateral actions in the occupied valley, and has always been something that Pakistan has said that has to be addressed first before we can actually move forward with a positive direction with the country. And so while we of course are making sure that we have this signal across that we are ready for that sort of dialogue, how will this particular issue be resolved then? Because there seems to be previously the kind of direction from India coming in to circumvent around this issue and sort of not really talk about this one.
Right. Thank you very much, Sana, because everybody is talking about hope he changes stuff. So I'm also going to begin by saying something nice, and that is before the elections. Even though 1 year ago, 1 year before the elections, I started pointing out that every time BJP needs something big as a big issue, national issue, to you know, sway the elections. So this time I don't see anything, because there's a law of diminishing of returns. So why not actually start negotiations with Pakistan and peace process, through which you can always win some kind of plaudits from international press and eventually maybe Nobel Prize. But with that also you can sway the elections. They did not listen. But then I had another wish that I kept on putting out, and that was that Pakistan should not be used as a prop to win the elections. And I think that I'm glad to say And this might actually have earned the outgoing Army Chief of India my lasting respect as well, that they did not try to use kinetically. Of course, in speeches, Modi ji might have used Pakistan's name many times, or Amit Shah might also, or Rajnath Singh too. But in reality, they did not use any Pulwama kind of situation to win the election. So at least there I give them respect. Now to your questions and the deeper aspects of it. Sana, let me, they say that past is the worst place to get lost in. But I just want to actually take you all back 11 years ago when Modi was on the horizon, but he hadn't actually taken over. And at that time, I had this very hearty debate with certain establishment figures who were convincing me that because it is the history of hardliners in India, that when they come to power, they actually go for some kind of peace overture towards Pakistan. And this is what is going to happen, and it will be for keeps, because once they compromise, then it is lasting compromise, right? And I said that you forget that Modi is not Vajpayee. And I want to see some kind of evidence, and I will love to be proven wrong. We kept on waiting for 10 years, Sana. And I've been waiting for that disruption to take place any time now, right? Of course, Modi ji came, Mian Nawaz Sharif went to New Delhi, but you remember how their foreign office actually treated Pakistan. Then Modi ji came to Pakistan as well, but it was to attend a marriage of the granddaughter of the then Prime Minister, who had actually visited him in Delhi, but nothing beyond that, right, Sana? My humble submission is, for 10 years, I've waited with bated breath. Remember those advertisements on Indian channels regarding World Cup victory for Pakistan? Used to be about mauka or opportunity, opportunity, because Pakistan had never won or beaten India in World Cup until then. So this is another mauka. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to leave the Hopi changes stuff to all the people who were fans of Modi, or for that matter, for some reason wanted him to see him in power. My humble submission is that when they had, simple majority in 2014, when they had larger majority of 303 in 2019, they did not come forward with any kind of peace overtures towards Pakistan. So all these statements, and I love it, at least it shows a positive character of Pakistani leadership, that they keep on putting out these feelers. But because unfortunately, our intelligence here, because it has been lazy and it only actually exposes itself to Indian English papers, right? Nobody bothers to learn Hindi. I learned Hindi and I can read the Hindi papers. So I don't see any buy-in in Indian press among intellectuals regarding Pakistan. I mean, pick Amar Ujala, pick Dainik Bhaskar, any other paper. Pakistan either is not mentioned or it is substituted for the word terrorism. And amazingly, in the past it used to be terrorism for the sake of terrorism. Now they have actually done something very interesting. They have conflated it with Islam. They say that since all the terrorists were Muslims, so all Muslims are terrorists. Yeah. And because Pakistan is 96% Muslims, they are terrorists. Why should we talk to terrorists? So with that kind of mentality, you honestly think somebody like Modi, who does not now even have simple majority, who is riding a tiger right now, will disembark and reach out to you? I can be wrong, and I honestly hope that I'm wrong, because I'm a peacenik. But I don't see any chance of that.
All right. Ambassador Saab, I want your perspective on this as well, especially with regards to the issue of Kashmir, and also add to that with reference to, of course, what Pakistan is going to be addressing moving forward, of course, with the new government in place and putting forward these messages. The way forward is extremely important for Pakistan in terms of its economic progress as well, and of course, overall prosperity too. And while we talk about all of that, it's very important to be able to have a sense of security. And of course, we are dealing with our own threats, including that of terrorism in the country, and we've also reiterated on many platforms previously also the links of Indian involvement, and then of course the elements that have been present from their intelligence agency. Given all of that also in mind, what sort of movement forward do you think can be possible on this front as well when we address this particular issue, when we put forward this in the international community and talk about Indian involvement? How do we tackle this along with moving forward positively?
Sana, now there are several aspects and strings that you brought in this complex question. So I'll just touch upon briefly on Kashmir. So what I observed, the strategy BJP adopted during the elections, that they did not put up any of the candidates in Kashmir. And what they did was they had some proxies which they supported, but to the good fortune of and good sense, and democratic sense and common sense and patriotism of the Kashmiris under the Indian-occupied Kashmir, they did not vote for those proxies. Rather, a new generation of Kashmiri leaders, which are more patriotic, which are more democratic, and they understand the complexity of the situation now after the abrogation of 370 and the change of status of Kashmir. So this is one aspect that we must keep in mind, that BJP strategy of propping up proxies and then governing Kashmir through proxies has failed. One. Second observation was very interesting and very intriguing. I do not have answers. Maybe our other scholars sitting with you have some answers. The first statement that immediately after the elections that Mr. Modi made was that for Kashmir, he would like to go back to the BJP's, Mr. Vajpayee's concept of Jamhuriyat, Insaniyat, and Kashmiriyat. If he really believes and wants to implement this, then I see a ray of hope, at least for the Kashmiris, how that at least their situation might be improved. They might come out of this suppression of the BJP and the distortion of their identity. Or even I've been saying that they face an existential threat at the hands of the BJP as far as Kashmiri or Kashmiriyat or Kashmiri identity is concerned. So I think maybe there is some kind of a message that he wants to convey to the Kashmiris, that they want to, and also with that link the decision of the Indian Supreme Court that I think they are supposed to go give back the status of a state to Kashmir by the end of this month probably. So let's see what happens. Now, whether India will talk to us on Kashmir or not, that is a very, very, very far in the future, I believe. I think we have to sort of, what they call it, हमें बहुत सारे आग के दरिया जो है वो पार करने होंगे. We'll have to really cross several fires before we reach the ultimately Kashmir issue. We are both.
We have had this stance for quite some time that we want to talk about Kashmir, especially the unilateral actions taken in Kashmir before we move ahead. So I might assume that we can actually, there's a possibility of actually putting that aside and continuing with dialogue and then later coming onto the issue of Kashmir. Has Pakistan ever changed that stance? I'm not aware.
So that's not the idea. That I think, from my perspective, I've been writing in my also essays that is a principled position, and that I think the governments have taken, the previous government as well as this government, that Kashmir dialogue starts with the revocation of with the restoration of Kashmir's status pre change in its status. So that is, I think, non-negotiable and it should remain non-negotiable, because that is the basic principle on which our entire edifice of Kashmir policy will start. Now, I think most immediate is the
without the issue of Kashmir first? Can any other dialogue also start without the issue of Kashmir first?
exactly. I'm going to that. I think most urgent and most immediate, I think, is the issue of terrorism now being kind of, at least there are several evidence to see that the terrorism which is happening in Pakistan, the source seem to be from our eastern borders. That has to be, before we really move on, we have to talk about that. That has to come to an end. They have to take back their operation, that devolve doctrine about Pakistan and creating Pakistan's instability, peace, law and order situation, or terrorism, that has to go back. When they unwind that policy, then I think we can move on. But there are several other areas, as I said. Of course, the Indus Water Treaty is one, the climate change is other, the facilitation of religious visits by the Hindus to Pakistan, and some of the Muslims, they go to India. That should be are those fishermen who are caught on both the sides. They should be. So I think it has to be an incremental actually approach towards reducing the tension. But I think most of all, primarily you have to start your dialogue. The problem is that the two countries are not talking, which defies the logic, which defies all diplomatic niceties, which defies the entire system of the way the states they treat each other. So unless we start to talk, that's why I reiterate that it's a high time. India should reciprocate to Pakistan, and Pakistan should take an initiative in upgrading the embassies to the ambassadorial level, and an incremental kind of program of re-engaging with India has to be started. But I think primarily we have to tell Indians to stop the terrorism, which is now, in fact, eating into our vitals of the society, our economy, and the entire edifice of our governance and state structure. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ambassador G.R. BALUCH, for joining us and talking to us with regards to our relationship with India. Faisal, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was just listening to obviously Ambassador BALUCH. He's right about it, that the abrogation of 370 and 35A, that must be reversed before any talks. And when of course we talk about Pakistan facing terrorism, I mean 90% of the terrorism, it's all to do with India. Of course they are the facilitators of terrorism in Pakistan. Unless they are the facilitators of terrorism, we shouldn't be, of course, in a position to talk with them, because we are in a war, in a hidden war against them. And unless they they tighten their pockets and they don't send money to the terrorists to wage a war against Pakistan, and we shouldn't be talking to them. And when it comes to, of course, water terrorism, which is being applied by India against Pakistan, of course they are making dams after dams on water that is supposed to come to Pakistan. They need to be, of course, rational about that as well. They need to discuss it with Pakistan. And of course, if
sure, but to discuss it, there has to be dialogue.
It has to be a dialogue, and of course they have to be rational when it comes to all of these aspects. Yes, I am someone who always believes in people-to-people relations of both of the sides. We share language, we understand each other's language, and when it comes to, of course, many of Pakistanis who are married in India, and many of the Indians who are married, of course, in Pakistan, and even I have a couple of my friends who always ask me about when would there be visa ease for Pakistanis, or their wives are from India, or few of the people who have actually sent their daughters there to get married there, and they are not they are not able to bring their husbands in Pakistan. So this these kind of things, people to people relations,
Yes,
they need a bit of ease.
Absolutely.
And one more thing, a very important thing, and that is that the trade, of course, trade would not only help Pakistan or help India, but it would be good for even the Central Asian republics as well, and Afghanistan
Absolutely.
as well.
We're
so it's a
short on time,
mutual benefit,
and I want
everyone
comments
to.
and to bring that in the show as well. Yes, Farrukh.
Right, Sana, thank you very much for this intervention, although I don't know how much time I have. I just wanted to actually tell you how difficult that prospect of a dialogue is, because immediately after elections, because losing 60 seats is not a small deal in any democracy. So RSS also confronted Modi ji, and according to one of my RSS sources, he immediately said that he is going to step down at the age of 75, that is next year, so they can appoint Nitin Gadkari, that is RSS favorite, as their prime minister.
Okay.
So if that is true, I can't actually Darogh Bargardane Ravi upon their neck be it. Then if it is true, then what happens? Now you have a very shrinking window of actually action, right? Right now, they have immediately entered into a crisis. Paper leak issue is becoming a national issue, and tomorrow their parliament is going to be rocked by it. In July, they are going to have their budget session.
Right.
Immediately after that, two things happen. Two of the critical allies of BJP and coalition are going to be dissatisfied because they are not going to get the monies that they are demanding from the center. And by October, because India's market has a contagion, the economy is going to suffer through a lot of crisis. So with that kind of a situation building up, do you think that Modi will have time for you and I?
All right. Thank you, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. Of course, much remains to be seen as to what direction this particular relationship will take, but we hope that whatever it is best for both the countries. That's all we have from the debate. We'll now save it tomorrow.